Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kesgrave Panthers Podcast. Today, our guest is 2014 over 40s world champion Stumps. How are you feeling today?
I'm very good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. So,
Good day at school?
I wasn't at school today, actually. We have half term at the moment.
Oh, of course, yeah. Ours was last week.
Yeah, so how did you get into cycle speedway then?
That would be my dad. So my dad rode for a team called Long Eaton, 1978 to 1980. My first introduction to cycle speedway would have been sitting in a pushchair. I was born in 1975, so probably 2-3 years old maybe. And then in 1981, my dad formed a club called Castle Donington, which is where I'm basically born and raised for 20 years. And I did a little bit of racing for them as well. So I think my first competitive match would have been 1984, a long time ago.
So did you enjoy the track that you first started at?
To be honest, my dad built the track with some local friends in Castle Donington, and although I raced on it for a couple of years, I wasn't really of an age where I could fully appreciate it, or I was more of a mascot to the club really. I did a bit of second team racing, but yeah, not old enough to remember it or to appreciate it really.
So, you're now at Leicester, obviously. So,
yeah.
Do you enjoy the track there? Like, do you appreciate that now?
Yes, I do. Obviously, like yourselves and Kesgrave, everybody that you speak to will always say that their home track is their favourite track. Leicester's a very good track in that it doesn't offer a great deal of home advantage. A lot of away riders like to come there, decent shape. For me, it's the perfect size cycle speedway track. We're fortunate enough to have a building and some seating and covered pits and stuff. So we are very fortunate in what we have. The only thing that lets it down a tiny little bit is just the surface. We're struggling with the surface at the minute. Although Craig Whitehead practically lives at the place and just does absolute wonders with it, we're just lacking that. We can't get it smooth. It's smooth in some areas, but down both of the straights, very, very bumpy, and we can't get around it for some reason at the minute. So that's the plan for the winter. We're trying to get it flat.
That colour sounds like what we're trying to do at the moment as well. Are there any tracks that you dislike then?
Yes. Well, actually, no. I'll tell you what, when I rode for Paul between 97 and 2000, I went to a whole host of tracks that I'd not been to before, obviously being with Leicester previous. Hellingly. I don't know if you guys might have been there in the South East League, maybe. Hellingly was an awful track to go to. Hellingly rode it really, really well. No matter how good the opposition was, I don't know if they were unbeatable around it. I'm sure they were beatable, but I don't think I ever went there and beat them. But then in more recent years, I've been back there with the Eurovets Grand Prix series, and I've done okay there actually. And I've actually beaten the track specialist Martin Hollyman once or twice around there. So that's quite an achievement. I'm trying to be honest, I'm probably better on tracks more now than what I was growing up. Now we've got the maxi tyres and the bikes have changed a little bit. The surfaces have changed a little bit. And to be honest, most tracks now are pretty good. I don't have one that stands out that really bugs me anymore.
Yeah, so I mentioned at the start that you are world over 40s champion in 2015. Like, what did it feel like when you crossed the line and knew that you were world champion that day?
A bit weird, to be honest. Up until that day, I'd been on rostrums in national finals, I think 11 or 12 times up to that point. And it's really weird because I didn't really put a lot of thought into that day, because once we found out that the event was going to be held at Leicester, my focus went away from the racing and went more around organising the event. So it wasn't really until the actual racing started on the day that I started to think about the racing. and I rode in the semi-final, had 2 gate 4s, didn't get beat by anybody, and then I got 2 gate 4s in the final, and again I didn't get beat by anybody. So I basically scored 40 points in the day with 4 gate 4s. And like I say, I didn't think about the racing until the very first race. I was sat on the grid under starters orders, and I'm like, okay, so the race is starting now. That was when I clicked in. When I went into my last race, I can't remember what gate it was off now. I just knew that if I won that, I think there was 1 or 2 races left after that race. So I think I just knew in my mind, if I won that race, nobody could touch me. Nobody could do anything about me winning. And when I went across the line, I think there's a photo somewhere floating around on Facebook, but the look on my face, I think, is more relief than anything at the fact that I've actually achieved something individually. Because up until that point, I'd not achieved anything individually at all, really. Always tried, but just always been a bridesmaid, always finished second or third. So yeah, it's massive feeling. And a little bit, I remember sitting in the back of the pits actually after I'd won that last race, and everybody's congratulating me and patting me on the back, and all the stuff that you expect people to do. And I actually cried. I sat at the back of the pits and cried because I didn't know really how to celebrate. It was very, very weird. Yeah, very, very weird. So it's an experience I'd like to experience again, to be honest. Just go through that period of time where, I don't know, was it supposed to happen? I don't know, but the feeling was out of control, really. But the very, very next day, I remember the next day, when you try so hard to achieve something, and then you finally get there. I remember the next day being out with a lot of friends and all their children, and I was proper back down in the dumps for some reason, because I've gone so high in one instant, and the very next day I was just completely flat. It was bizarre. I could never put my finger on that. So yeah, great feeling.
So you say that you hadn't really won much individually. Are there any team things that you stand out as a big achievement for you?
Yes, absolutely. The first one, all of the British team finals I've been a part of that I've won. I think I've been in 30. I've ridden in 13 British team finals. I've won 7, lost 6. But my first big experience as a team rider or a team event was 1997 in Australia, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of the 5-man England team that won the Senior World Cup. It wasn't on paper, it was not a team that I thought anybody thought would win the event. We didn't do anything special through the tour leading up to the event. And then on the day, I think we won by 1 or 2 points in the end, but on the day, everything just fell into place. We did our jobs. The Australian side was solid, absolute solid side, and we managed to beat them. So, and to be honest, being in that team, I was probably in the right place at the right time, because if other people had been available, if other people had been able to afford to make the trip to Australia, very, very doubtful I would have been in that England team. So yeah, right place, right time, and then we managed to win. Yeah, but that was the first experience. A lot of British teams, like I've said, also representing Great Britain. They're always feisty events, and I've been fortunate enough recently to have represented Great Britain at over 40s in the Federation Cup, test matches against Australia, even the World Cup, and a best pairs now as well, world best pairs. So yeah, I enjoy team racing. I love it.
Yeah. So would you say you enjoy team racing more than individual, or which one do you prefer?
Growing up through the age groups, I enjoyed the individuals simply because I wasn't a very good team rider. So yeah, the individuals were more for me, I think, at the time. Plus, I'm a fast. Well, I like to think I'm a fast gator. I'm probably not as fast now as I was 10, 12 years ago, but still all right. So my job in the team, certainly at Leicester, was always to get off the outside gates and basically get in front of the more experienced riders, and then just pedal like hell and hope that no one catches me. So yeah, definitely individuals to start with. Then as I grew older, learned a little bit. I actually learned quite a lot of team riding at Poole. Like I say, Leicester was more get out the gate, get in front, get out of the way, we'll look after you. And then at Poole, under Colin Sutton and Pete Barnes, I was basically thrown in at the deep end and asked to start doing the donkey work, so to speak, and protecting my teammate. And then I had a season at Wednesfield in 2013 where I rode with Paul Hurd. Now, I remember you did Paul Hurd a few months back, and you asked him the team riding question. And I was hoping that I thought I might have a slim chance here. Paul's going to say that he had a good year with Craig Marchant as a team rider, but he never said it, and I pulled him up on it. But yeah, when I got to Wednesfield that year, everything that I did on the track was perfect. All the team riding, the experience I gained over the years up to that point. You know, I was only running like seconds and thirds, but to Roger Ellis, that was absolute gold. That was just pulling in like 5 or 6 4s off the outside gates with Paul was just done a job all year. So now I probably like both now actually, because I'm like in the over 40s, I'm fully competitive again on an individual level. So yeah, 50-50. After all that, I got to it in the end, didn't I?
So would you say that you have a favourite team riding partner?
Yeah, my favourite team riding partner would be Kevin Burns, or Burno, as he's better known. Good friend for 35, 40 years, teammate at Leicester. I don't know if you were present this year at Ipswich for the British Club pairs, but I think we went 6 or 7 races unbeaten in the Vets pairs. So 6, 7 3s back to back, which won us that. And the day before, we both won the Will Burns pairs, Will Burns Memorial pairs. That's his dad's event. So yeah, Kevin Burns, Paul Hurd, I miss Paul out, come on, that year at Wednesfield. But I think the thing about team riding or team partners is if 2 team riders from any club, you put 2 riders together on a grid that can both team ride, like when you race for the Midlands or you race for Great Britain or something like that, both the riders are dialed into team riding. It doesn't matter who you ride with, I don't think. You only need to just have a quick chat before you go out, and as long as you both understand each other, it'll work out usually. So yeah. So I'm trying to think. I'll stick with them pair. I'll stick with Kevin Paul.
Yeah, so I've got in my notes here that you are also European over 40s champion in 2018, I believe.
Yes.
So
That
yeah,
was in Poland.
yeah. So was that like any more special than the Worlds, or yeah, did you kind of maybe expect it a little bit?
You know what? It was like I explained, winning the world title. But that was the first time I won anything. The feeling was just, well, something I'll probably never experience again. I then went and tried to defend that in 2017 in Australia and finished 3rd after a run-off with Winnie. So once I started winning Eurovets rounds and things like that, winning became not easy, but a little bit more normal, if you know what I mean. So when I went to Poland and raced in the over 40s European, winning it was fantastic and something that again I'd love to do again. But the feeling was different because I'd gotten used to being able to win and managing myself through a meeting and also managing a program as well. You know, in an individual meeting, you've got to know who the main riders are. You've got to know what they're up to. You've got to keep an eye on them, watch what they're doing, see if they drop a point here, see if they drop a point there, see if you can gain an advantage that way. So that each time you go into a race, you know what you've got to do, and hopefully, come the end of that meeting, you've just got your nose in front enough to be able to take the meeting out. So yeah, great feeling and fantastic to win it, but a completely different feeling to that world.
So, what did you think of the tracks in Poland?
So the track we raced on for the over 40s European was a track called Przesna, which is possibly 15-20 minute drive from Czestochowa. I don't think it's a particularly old club. The shape of the track, again, not a big track, reasonably decent shape. Surface is a little bit thick in places, so you need to have your head screwed on. You can't just chop around it and hope that you'll stay on your bike. You've got to think about where you are, what you're doing. Czestochowa, I raced on the day before in the seniors, and that was just, I think Lizzie mentioned it in her podcast, that was just an absolutely massive track. Big long straights, which are no good for someone with little legs. And the inside curb, which I think Steve Harris found out about, they're like 5 or 6 inches tall. So if you got squeezed up onto it, you were going over, you weren't getting out of it. You couldn't run up onto the grass or anything. It was quite bad, really. And bigger than any track in this country, I think.
Yeah, so how did you find the tracks over in Australia when you went?
I've been to Australia 6 or 7 times now. My favourite track, again, which Lizzie mentioned earlier in a previous thing, she mentioned that her least favourite track in Australia was Lefevre, didn't she? Which is really odd because I think Lefevre is very much like Leicester. So Lefevre is my favourite track. Similar sort of size, similar sort of shape, possibly a little bit flatter. Obviously different surfaces. But just a nice free-flowing track. Salisbury, again, is too big for little legs. Finden's quite a decent shape. Finden's a little bit like Great Blakenham, I think. Quite long, narrowish. But yeah, all good tracks, all perfectly good tracks. Have you boys been to Australia, have you?
No.
No, if you get the opportunity, take it. It's an experience of a lifetime and you'll not regret it. So start saving now.
So you are 3-time British over 40 indoor champion, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
So
I've actually held that title for 5 years because there's been 2 years where it's not ran. 2017 was the first year it didn't run, and obviously last year for the pandemic. I've actually held the title for 5 seasons now. If I win it again, which I fully intend to do, all fingers crossed. If I win it again, that'll be 4 times. And I want to try and keep winning this as long as I can, because I know Steve Harris has got an absolute bucket load of indoor titles. Well, actually, he's got a bucket load of titles for over 40 in general. So yeah, I want to win that again. You guys done indoor racing yet?
yeah, I do it.
Any good? Like it?
Yeah, I really like it.
Great fun. I've always loved indoor.
So in cycle speedway, like what would you say is your biggest achievement? Is it your world title, or is it like something a bit more smaller?
Definitely my world title. That's always going to be at the top of the pile. I like to think I've had a little bit of a hand in the veteran scene in the last 5 years. Obviously, the vet scene was well ahead, well in flow by the time I got to 2015 and able to ride in it. But from winning my world title, I kind of not really planned to, not thinking about or anything like that, but I started just pushing it, encouraging people that wouldn't necessarily give it the time of the day to try and think about doing it, making the numbers up. Then obviously came the 2017 Australia Tour, which included a vets test match series against Australia. I'm hoping I had a part in that because I remember a lot of Australian results coming up on Facebook, and they were all over 40s riders. And I made contact with a chap called Simon Harley, who is over 40, and I asked him questions about the guys over there. Is there a lot of them racing? What level are they at? And then the conversation evolved into, can we get GB versus Australia, which I know has been done in the past, but more unofficial. So then, to and fro in between Jeff Gamage and Mike Hack and people on the RCSF, it became an actual thing. So now the over 40 Great Britain team became an official thing, and we had 3 test matches in Australia, which was fantastic. And I think I had a hand in that. And I think from that point onwards, the vets racing has just gone crazy. Really, we've got World Cups, we've got best pairs, we've got Federation Cup, we've even got home internationals now, which we didn't have any of this 5 years ago. So yeah, I'll give myself a little pat on the back for that, and I'd put that down as an achievement alongside my world title and my 3 indoor titles, which I'm going to make more.
Yeah. We asked Lizzie this question and we got quite an extravagant answer. So I'm just going to see if yours is the same. But what would you say is your most embarrassing moment in your career?
Well, I didn't have a fight with a tree. I actually watched this today. I was on the way back from work today from West Bromwich, and I saw Lizzie's podcast came up, and I did watch it. So yeah, that was quite funny. But yeah, I've not had a fight with a tree. But I can fully imagine that Lizzie has at some point, and I can imagine the tree won as well. So embarrassing moment. Oh dear. There was one. I wouldn't say an embarrassing moment, but just an embarrassing match. And this was an over 40s, and it was at East Park in 2017. And it just, from start to finish, it was just not meant to be. Everything went wrong. One particular race, there was 2 of us in the race. I was on gate 4. And my good mate Jim Collier, I don't know if you know him or not, chap covered in tattoos all over him. Bit of a joker, good lad, really nice bloke. He's on gate 2, I think. Tapes go up. I slip off my pedal. I don't know what's happened. I've gone off the back of my bike, and then when I've tried to get up on my bike to get off the grid, the front of my race bottoms are hooked on the back of my seat. So I'm on the grid trying to sort myself out. I then got on my bike and chased after Jimbo, who's like half lap in front now already on the first lap. And I've caught him up, and then when I've gone to pass him, I've just slipped off. My front end's just washed out. I'm on my backside on the track. Jimbo's won the race, and to this very day, he keeps reminding me of it. But it's funny now. At the time, it was just horrendous because it was, you know, when you're racing an individual meeting, you think you've got a chance of winning, and then you get an exclusion, you fall off, you get race bottoms caught on your seat, you can't make it up. So yeah, that's probably the most embarrassing moment of my career. I'm sure there's plenty more, and I'm sure there'll be some more, but that one stands out.
So would you say, do you have anything that's or really memorable in your time riding?
It's too many to mention. Obviously the World Cup in '97, all my British team final wins, being world champion, winning my British indoors. There was an incident in Poole in the early 90s which didn't involve racing, where 1 or 2 or even 3 members of the Leicester club got arrested on a night out in Poole. So that was a memorable moment. That one always gets raised and spoken about every now and again over a drink. There's been too many. Cycle Speedway is such a good sport. There's so many people, so many friends, different nationalities. When we all get together, it's just a laugh. I mean, early recently, I was in Poland with Zach Payne, Will Jeffrey, Mark Carmichael, Mark Winward, Paul Hurd, Brucey Timms, and Ewan Hancocks, and we, for the 4 days, we had such a good time. Just everything was a laugh, and those moments, you can't. They just unfold as they are. You can't plan it. You know, if you guys ever get to go on a tour, literally just take it with both hands, because you'll love every minute of it, and you'll make new friends as well, and the great experiences.
So, what would you say is like the best advice you've been given, or like what advice would you give to younger riders?
I think I might have said this to you guys before. I think was it actually no, it might have been for another video I did. But one of the biggest things advice I've been given is to look after my bike, hardly, which I'm sure most people do. But having your bike how you need it, having it all ship shape and work in order, and the bike is the most important part of racing. I think if your bike's right, you've got half a chance. That's one of the things I was told that years ago, going back as far as 14, 15 years old. Advice, people giving me advice. The advice I can give is, like you guys, take every opportunity to enter as much as you can. Are you guys still in the under 16 next year? Yeah, both are. So if you're under 16, obviously you're going to ride in that, but have a go at the under 19s as well. If you can, have a go at the seniors, because I think our senior racing, they were at Birmingham a few weeks or quite some time ago, actually, in the first round of the Battle of Britain. And I watched you and was not surprised, because I've seen you race before, but you were not out of place at senior level. So you should bear that in mind, and like I say, take every opportunity you can to race in absolutely everything. Club individuals, open invitations, anything. So, it might cost you a few pennies, but the experience that you gain is invaluable. And I would say that to anybody that's going to watch this. If you're not sure about entering, just enter, because support the sport, support the event, help yourself, gain experience. You'll get knocked around a little bit, but you'll learn from it. And I've already seen you race, so I don't think you'd be out of your depth at all. I can't say the same for you, Charlie. I can't recall seeing you race, unfortunately. I do apologise for that.
So, was there anyone that you looked up to when you were younger, or now still?
Yeah, Jimmy Varnish. He was an absolute legend. There's been loads, actually. A lot of. I wouldn't say I look up to a person as such, but I looked up to the pool team between 1987 to 1993. They went 7 years unbeaten in the British team, and later on in life, I was fortunate enough to ride with some of them as they were winding down their careers, and I looked up to all of them without them actually knowing, because they what they did for 7 years was just remarkable, really. They were like the Real Madrid of cycle speedway. They were just untouchable in that one event, and that was the one event that every big team wanted to win. I mean, you guys have seen the size of the trophy. So yeah, I looked up to those guys, and to be honest, I've been really fortunate. I've looked up to all of the senior riders around me, whether it was at Poole or Wensfield or Leicester. And obviously, I've been at Leicester for the majority of my career, and there's been some absolute legends in the club: Norm Benson, David Emsley, Dave Frith, Mark Newey, two-time world champion. There's so many people I could look up to. I could name names for hours.
Yeah. So,
what about you? You got any guys you look up to at the minute? Any guys down the south, east?
Well,
who inspires you?
Well, the first real person that I ever looked up to was probably Lewis Brinkhoff, who's he was, when I was young, he was still at our club, and he was just winning everything. It's just, yeah.
That's not changed, has it?
No.
Lewis is an exceptional talent for his age, and he will only get better.
Yeah.
And I fully imagine he will. Well, he's got to be knocking on the senior GB team door now. Got to be. Incredible rider. What he's done so far and what he's achieved at senior level, especially, is incredible. So yeah, long may that continue. Brilliant lad. So yeah, he I can see how you'd look up to him. Is he slightly older than you?
Yeah, this year was his last year in the juniors, so he's now in the seniors technically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we've got through quite a lot today. So thank you for talking about all your 6 or 7 Australian experiences, your World Championship experiences. Yeah, it was really good. So thank you for coming on with us.
That's okay. Just let me show you one more thing quickly before you go.
Right.
Just going back to the part where I said take every opportunity to race in the age categories above yourself. I'm going to show you a picture now from 1984, which is me. You might spot which one's me. Can you see that picture? Can you see that picture? Is it very clear?
Yeah.
So, can you see me?
I think
Yeah,
so.
I think so.
So that's the picture from 1984 at Castle Donington, and I'm 8 years old, and I'm in the school boards, which was the old under-15 British Championship. So I've got like 7 years still in that age group if I continue racing at that point. And that chap there on the very end, that's David Hensley, of all the people. So yeah, so that's a good reason why you should enter everything, because you'll learn and you'll end up like me one day, short, fat, and bold.
Yeah. So, thank you for coming on, and yeah, so we'll see everybody next time. Goodbye.
All right, keep it up, yeah.